Blender has come a very long way from the old particle hair system to the new geometry node hair system. This is awesome for us artists because it just provides us with a tool that we can basically create any hairstyle we want. But one little caveat, you have to be a geometry node expert, or at least have access to resources that will aid you kind of create hair on the fly. This takes away the artistic nature of grooming hair into a more technical approach where you have to learn the tool. So I've created a tool called Hair Break Addon. This tool enables you to just work on the fly, all the nodes you might ever need, basically utility tools, hair deformations. A lot of stuff have been combined into one resource to make it easy for you to groom your hair. The product is available on Blender Marketplace, so you can go ahead and check it out if it's something for good for you. But before you go, if you want to have a more educated guess on what to be expecting, in this video I'm going to be going through 40 nodes, 40 modifiers for the Hair Break Addon, and what they can do, all their features, and what you should expect. This is an ever-growing library of hair modifiers, so if you're interested, the link will be in the description. But let's get started and let's don't waste any of your precious time. Okay, here inside Blender, if you have the add-on already enabled, you should see the Hair Break. And if you've not installed it yet and you got your copy and you want to install it, you want to go to Edit, Preference, and Install. So if you just downloaded it, don't unzip it, leave it compressed and just install it the way it is. Okay, for us to see the UI, let's add simple objects and you can see the UI. Let's quickly go over some of these quick tools so that you can see how awesome it is even before the hair nodes. So you can use this to add hair quickly here in Blender, and it's basically the typical way. So you can remove hair. I'll just paint this. So you can remove hair and add. You can rename, disable certain visibilities. I think we'll add like the selection disable in the next feature. This, you can click on this and jump right into the sculpt mode. And here in the sculpt mode, you can still add different hair systems. So you can just keep adding, especially if you want to work that fast. And right here in the sculpt mode, you can switch between them and keep working. I think Blender already has a feature, Alt Q. Or this is a feature that comes with this, because I'm not sure Blender has this. I'm not sure, but probably. Don't stun me. Anyways, another feature is you could duplicate on the fly, and you can duplicate with hair, your groom, or you can duplicate without any groom. So if you have a modifier and you want to keep the modifiers but yet remove the hair, you can have that too. And one last feature here is the joining all curves. So if you have all curves selected and you want to join them all, so basically you can just click on this join and join curves. But note, if you already have hair modifiers, it's going to apply those hair modifiers. So if you don't want them applied, basically you can remove them. So I'll click on join curves and it does this thing, and then we just have one curve system where we can go in and start grooming. Okay, and yeah, that's that for now. Also, if you wanna, like, if you have, sometimes there are a lot of ways of generating hair inside geometry node. So let's say you created bunch of curves and you want to try to use it. So if I parent this onto this, I'm sorry about that. If I have this curves and I want to turn it back into hair, so I make this a hair system and I parent it to this object. As long as the curve is parented to this object, it doesn't even depend if it's snapping or if it's attached. As long as it's parented to it, you should be able to use the features here, so you can duplicate the hair and take advantage of it. So it's a very forgiving tool to kind of play with. Okay, so let's get into the hair modifiers and see how this works. Here we have Susan with a nice mohawk, and we can use her to test out the tools. So let's start with the first one, which is simple duplicate. So the simple duplicate is a very simple modifier that basically allows you controls duplicating the hair. So you can add more hair particles. Here you can control the amount you see in the viewport and also the amount you see in the render. You can hide the guide hair, and you can enable clump. So this is a very basic clump that doesn't have like stacking and stuff like that. And you can play with the clump max and every other thing. So we have blend curves. Blend curve is quite easy too. So you can use, let's do some blending. I'm going to grow the front part like this. So without the blend curves, we can see how it looks. There's no nice transition between it. But the blending helps with that. So if you increase this to and increase the radius, you can see it tries to start blending them. You can play with the neighbors, like how much. It's kind of like interpolating the hair, so it's you can fake it with the simple hair and then use the blend to kind of blend it all to make it feel like an interpolated hair. I'm going to undo that. Okay, so the next one is cut hair. So the cut hair uses just image textures. So this should work, please. um, like we did earlier, we just create a mask, something, and if you invert the mask, you should lose all the hair. So if you invert it, it becomes white. If you leave it, it's black now. So with the mask, you can cut out certain portions of the hair that you don't want to create any nice effect. So it's for for styling hair, if you want to get like a nice zigzag cut, this is one way to go about that. Okay, so the next we'll be looking at duplicate curves. So this is an advanced version of the simple hair duplication. It produces more cleaner result compared to the earlier one. The earlier one is faster, but this gives you a more precise, nice result because it's created by the Blender Foundation. So I also use some nodes created by the Blender Foundation, so you're not missing out on those high quality nodes. So you can play with the amount of the hair, the radius. We also use the mask. It should work here nicely. So we can see it's only adding hairs. You invert it, and I hide guide hairs. So it's only adding the duplicated hair at portions where you paint it. Next we have grow hair. The grow hair basically grows the hair. So you can invert the growth. And it also uses the image mask. Most of these hair nodes uses image mask that allows you to create different levels of hairstyles. So certain ones we have different stuffs. Hair collision is a nice trait. So Blender has its own hair collision, at least of 3.5. It's a bit still buggy for some instant, but it seems to work here nicely. But it presents you with no control on like how much distance you want from it. For that, you can also use this. It works nicely. You can determine the space or the collision width, so it doesn't really penetrate stuff. So that's that for the collision. We have head depth. So head depth is a fun one, a fun effect to add. So if you want to add like snow leaves for your character, you can do that. So let's add a plane. We can distort it to make it look nice. And then you can either use the default plane, a default object created, or you can use custom object that you want to add. So you can use the uniform scale. So make sure that you center the origin for it to look nice. So you can randomize the rotation. Play with the minimum scale, and so for if you want to reduce the amount, you can either use this, and you can use this to remove the instance count. So you have less hair available there, less noise, less dirt available there. And also it works with the image mask. Next we have the hair radius. So this is for rendering. You usually want to add it for all your hair. So if we go to the hair radius, so this is without it, this is with it. You have control for the uniform scale. You have control for the base and control for the tip. We have hair transform. Set the root so it doesn't leave it. and then you can basically move the hair if you need to. These are things you might not need, but it's cool, it's there. So for the hair interpolated, it's basically the new interpolated system. So you select the hair surface. If you have an object with a different UV name, so if this is called something else, you want to make sure this name here is the same with this name here, and then you're good, because we will add a new image texture. I'm going to set it to white this time. Of recent, I'm preferring the white color, and then paint in black. And I'm going to click on invert, and then here in texture paint mode, we'll just paint where we want it to be. So you can see I have it disabled for now, just to allow me to do this. Kind of see where I'm painting. And once we have that, we can enable it. And we should see our hair. Invert. So I'm applying the rotation and scale. So it seems it needs that. So Ctrl A, apply rotation and scale. Set origin to geometry. So all of these are usually necessary stuff. One thing when working with geometry node, this is just a general knowledge. Always center the origin point to something. You will leave it there permanently before you start applying the hair, because I don't know, the geometry node depends on that origin point. Okay, so for the hair density, we can reduce it 2.01, and we have our hair density. So this is an interpolated version. We have mask trim. So this is a very cool feature created from need. I had a bunch of projects that required me to create a faded hairstyle, and this was the only way to kind of go about it. We can see some hairstyle created with it. This nice trim. It was only possible because of that. This is not visible, but it required these are more example created with the hair net node. The hair brick add-on. Okay. So this one, you can see the nice fade transition. So it's with the hair trim. So click on new. We'll set it to white for now. Click new. For this, we need to, it doesn't have the invert features yet, so we'll leave it as black. So the way it gets the fall off is basically it works with fall off. So if you want to get a nice fall off, you want to create a nice fall off. And one thing you can do is take it into Photoshop, blur it out. It will help create even more fall off, nice gradient value, and then it gives you that nice fall off going throughout the hair. So that's the max trim. Reduce hair is like what you expect. It reduces the hair. Rotate hair curve, so it creates a nice angle. Rotate it. Seems not to be working for this particular hair. Setting what might require longer hair, so use project and make this longer. Okay, curves UV. Anyways, yeah, that's the rotate hair. Smooth hair, it's basically going to smooth out any effect if you have applied on it. So if we have a coily hair and we apply the smooth hair, it's going to try to smooth the hair basically. So kind of take it back to a very okay, and now we have hair accessories. Hair accessories works basically if you want to add something at the top of the hair. Uh, I think this only works for like one hair. This was created specifically for like braided hair. So we'll do that if I add like a braided hair. Just uh, let's grow this out and add the hair accessories. So if you have one hair and you want to kind of add like something along it, this is the way you do it. So if I add like a dreadlock, and let's scale it up. Oh, that's one feature I failed to tell you. This preset system, you can basically create hair nodes and create a new preset for them. So I can call this, and you can see the preset. So if you have hair, you can just click on it and to add it. And this collapses all the modifiers. Okay. If you want to use this in a very practical way, the way it was intended, for this you duplicate this curve node. So we duplicate this and remove all the modifiers. So we just have this line, and then you want to select this line and this and do L, link object data. And now you can add the hair accessory onto just the single line. The reason for this is so now if we grab this brush and start combing it, we can see the object is always going to stick to it since they're basically the same object. It's just that one doesn't have any modifier. Okay, and let's go on to the next modifier. Now we are going into the styling. So most of this stuff are self-explanatory. For the braided, you don't need bunch of hair. For the braid, it's very cool. So let's grab an add brush. We'll set this to 3. Let's increase the segment just because. Okay, so we'll add this and just anyhow we want. Okay, this is a modifier add-on, so everything is based on stacks. So if we add a braid and we increase the uniform scale, you can see we already have a braided curve of that one curve stuff, and we can basically groom it. Okay, but we need more children hair, so basically as you expect, let's move this up. We'll play with the radius, increase the density, and voila, we have the braided hair. So it kind of works like how you expect Blender modifier to work. If you need volume, you kind of add simple hair for stuff, and that's how you create braided hair. We already have a preset for that, so you can select the hair and go to preset, braided. So you wanna play with this radius for it to match the stated hair. But I'm beginning to think this advanced duplicate doesn't work well for the braided, so I'll probably update it to use a simple duplicate for it. It seems to produce a much desirable effect. Move this down and increase the viewport display and the radius. Anyways, it seems it's kind of tempting. You just play with the radius. So if you want like a more thicker hair, you basically just scale this up and scale the hair radius. So they kind of work hand in hand. Like you scale it up, then you need to fill up the children hair to get the desired result. So playing with them, you can tighten it up a bit, and voila, you have your braided hair. if you want to create like a nice clump at the bottom, it's kind of same thought. We can just keep to the hair clump. So you want to look at it like, okay, we have our braided hair, and we want to we want to kind of clump the children before we apply the braid. So we can move this up before the braid. I'm going to move this down. So we're trying to create the clump hair. Use existing. So you can play with the factors and also the distance. So smaller distance creates tighter clumps. So that's how you can kind of taper. So we can play with the factor. If you want to switch it, you can switch it up, make the tip more clumped. Or you can just apply the modifier. So this also allows you to apply the modifier in the join. Probably not. I need to. It has to be two hair. I thought it would be nice cheap way. So I mean, I can. Let me see if there's a way I can quickly apply this. Okay, you can apply it and go into the grooming. Grab the comb. Kind of control how things looks. Even some more. Anyways, so that's that for the braided hair. Next we have coily hair. So we have different different type of coily hair that will work nicely for you. For different instance, some has more perimeters, some has less perimeters that you can play with. So like for this is a more simpler approach to the coily hair. And we can apply like a nice clump for everything. So like I said, basically for everything you can use mask. So let's say we want larger clumps here. And at the back we can duplicate this. And then we want, I'll disable the mask. We want smaller clumps. So you can see it's also affected the larger ones. So something like this, and we can use the enable mask. So we paint it for this one. So we're creating different type of clumps to just affect different regions. You can grab the blend curve. So let's say we want to blend just this area. So we have this enable and we use mask. So we are just trying to blend just this area. And it's just playing with the parameters to kind of see what works. Yeah, so that's how you kind of play with the stacks. So yeah, you just have a bunch of stuff. You have freeze, can freeze your hair, add freeze to the hair, fray hair. This works like the one you had Blender, so kind of create like random hair. You can choose like how much follows it and the less. You can also, if it's not snapping, we can skip and go use the snap to mesh and select this mesh. If you see it's doing an inverse, you can reverse the curve, or you can even use the reverse curve node. So sometimes, so we'll move this up. So that's why we have stuff like operations. So rather than going into geometry node to do it, you can just do it quickly on the fly. So that's how you can get nice free hair. That's especially if you're kind of pushing it. We have hair clumps, which we've played with a lot. We have roll hair. So you can combine several things. So let's add like hair noise, and you can see the effect it start giving it. We can put it before the roll hair to kind of break up that clean aesthetic. And then if you add like a clump, start getting nice cool hair. Remove this. Now this is the fun part. We're going into stylized hair, so I'm going to use a new hair. So I'm going to use the add. You can add a couple. So this is based, it's using the strand, so you don't need a lot since it's stylized hair. So let's add one. So we add stylized hair mesh 1. So you can play with the radius. The count kind of gives several effect. So it's set low for optimization purposes. So we applied like a subdivision to give it an overall smoothness. You can play with the radius to start like breaking it down to become more stylized. Just playing with different parameters, we kind of give you different hair. But we also have stylized hair custom mesh. So you can add a curve and select that curve. So we scale it in. Just scale it out in object mode. So if you scale it in edit mode, it kind of shrinks it. Okay, and now you can, let's add a bunch of subdivisions. You can start creating your own custom hair. And even if you delete that, you still have that. And now it's a matter of going in the comb brush, because you're practically grooming your hair. It's just another style. And we can add another hair. In the future, I would like to add things like feathers and just cool stuff, which you can get with this. Yeah, so as you can see how easy it's for us to create nice custom hair. So it's still curved, which you can add, like move it up. You want to be careful with that. Okay, I will not duplicate it a lot. So that's the stylized hair. So here in the operations, we kind of give you a lot of stuff. So curve to mesh. Currently, if you do, I mean, Blender allows you to convert it, but for some instance, you might want to do curve to mesh. So you have that available quickly. You have generate hair curves. So this is cool. If you want to generate hair curves quickly, or before I enable it, I'm going to paint in where I want the hair. So you can use this to, rather than like if you want to groom like a cat or tiger, it'd be a nice way for you to generate the hair like you have in particles. You play with the length, you can play with the density, you can invert the mask, kind of play with normals. You can play with the amount of control point. But importantly, before you start grooming, because currently if I try to groom this, nothing happens. That's because we need to apply this modifier. And once you've applied this modifier, it becomes a real hair now. And that's when you can start grooming it. We have resample curve, so you can resample the hair on the fly. We have both for render view and viewport view. If you're applying the viewport, it basically applies the viewport. You can show the points of the hair. And snap to mesh, this one we did. You can subdivide curve. This has no, this is more for when you're adding modifiers and you need more points to make it like smoother and stuff like that. This makes it easier for you to quickly subdivide the curve and work with it. And that's it. The snap to mesh tool also does the same thing. Yeah, but ideally the snap to mesh one, it works every time. And yeah, so that's it. I left everything at. Oh, one thing I forgot is linking. So you can link settings. So if I go to this tip and let's say I want to add a hair radius, so I can call this hair radius 1, or you just leave it hair radius. And I come here and add hair radius. So for a character, let's say I set this to 2, but I want to combine them together. I don't want to always have to adjust them. Let's say it's one character and I want them to share the same hair radius property. You can come here and check on the hair radius 1. So this hair radius 1. Okay, we'll tell this to follow hair radius 2. So now every value I change in 1 is affecting the both hair. And this also works in like modifiers. Any modifier basically, like if the children modifier, if you want to link properties, and when you link them, and if you want to unlink them, it's as easy as just clicking on this make unique, and then it becomes a unique modifier of its own. So that's it, guys. I hope this was quite fun for you. If you enjoyed it, give this video a thumbs up and check it out. The link will be in the description if you want to get it for yourself. Give it a try. It's definitely going to aid in your hair creation process. Okay, so bye bye for now. See you next time.